Hi everyone, we are Caitlin and Julie, and we're back with another video today, and we are going to talk about email basics. So this is a quick guide to how you can write your emails, particularly in a more formal setting for things like emailing Faith, emailing us, your professors, and future employers.
So jumping off of that, let's kind of break down the anatomy of an email and see what the different parts are. On the right, you can see we have a picture of an email, and this is an overview of the different parts of an email and what should be written in them. This can be used as a guide for any and all emails you write. This is pretty standard in structure and format, so you can use it across the board. In the top row, you can see recipients. That's where you send, that's who you're going to be sending it to. The second level is the subject. This is going to be just kind of a brief overview of what is in your email. And then the big green section is the body. This is where you're going to write your email contents and sign and create your recipient and all of that stuff. We will go into all of these in more detail as we go through the presentation.
So now we'll move on to the recipient section, and there are three types of recipients that you can have in your email. You have the to section, the carbon copy or CC section, and your BCC or blind carbon copy section. And this is illustrated from a screenshot that we took of the way that our email displays our options when writing an email through Gmail, though it may look different on different service providers. So your normal recipient, the to, is the primary recipient of your email. And everyone in this section, your to, your CC, and your BCCs will all receive the email. It just changes the way that they receive it. Though between to and CC, there really isn't that much of a difference. The main thing is just email etiquette. So if you are sending an email to the SAM editing team, and you also want to include Faith, we would be the primary subject or the primary recipient. So you would put us in the to section, and you might put Faith in the CC because she's not the primary email recipient. So again, both of these people will receive the email. It's just a slight etiquette difference. Blind carbon copy changes things. Again, everyone who is listed under blind carbon copy will receive the email. It's just they cannot see that other people in the list of blind carbon copied. So when we send out emails, oftentimes we address them to Faith, and then all of the student emails we put into the blind carbon copied section. This makes it easier for us and for you, because then anytime you reply to the email, no one in the BCC section receives your response. So it can just, in a large group of people, minimize the amount of emails that are being sent back and forth. So you probably won't use the BCC function too often, but if you are sending out an email to a large list of people, then you will use the BCC.
Okay, so next let's look into subject etiquette and what goes into an email subject and how you should write one. The subject in an email is where you provide important information about the email contents. The subject should highlight the important features of your email and what you intend to discuss within the body of the email. This can be an incomplete sentence. It should just be a short phrase. It doesn't have to be a really long thing. It should not be a greeting, nor should it be the first sentence in an email. That's not what the subject is for. And also an important thing to note is that if you are sending an email to someone that you don't necessarily know personally, or who may receive a bunch of emails every day, like a professor or a coworker or something like that, you want to make sure that your name is in the subject so the person receiving the email knows who it's from, as well as what the subject of the email will be.
And the next item down on the list is greetings. So we have our recipients in there, we have the subject in there, and now we're going to how to greet the person that you're writing to. And a greeting simply is how you open an email. This is pretty straightforward. And we've listed some potential greetings below. These are all more on the formal side of things. So dear Caitlin, to whom it may concern, that's one you may use if you are emailing, for example, the Office of Financial Aid at your university, and you don't know who you're going to be contacting specifically, but you're addressing the office. Another is hello, Caitlin. You should always make sure you have commas after these greetings and making sure that every other capitalization and any other punctuation is correct.
All right, now let's look into the body text of your email. The body of an email should be written in paragraph form with complete sentences and correct grammar. Emailing is not generally a super casual form of communication, so using shorthand or incorrect/incomplete sentences is not advisable. You shouldn't be writing this like a text message or like you would say something verbally. This is going to be more similar to formal writing, like something that you would do for school or for work. And if there are multiple ideas to address in an email, make sure the different ideas are split into separate paragraphs, just so the recipient can read through it and understand it and break it down a little more easily.
And the last part of writing an email is the closing. And this is similar to the greetings in that it's pretty straightforward and it involves a closer, something like best, sincerely, or regards, and your name, your first and last name in most instances. And different closings have different levels of formality. So the ones listed below are more on the formal side. Best might be someone that you're more familiar with, but is still in a formal setting, such as a coworker. Sincerely and regards are the most formal, and this might be something you use with a professor. It's also worth noting that the name that you sign your closer with should be the same one that you listed during the body text and in the subject. So your name should be consistent throughout the entire email, just so it's easier for the person who is reading the email to understand who you are and respond to you effectively.
All right, so let's put it all together. We have two examples to go over right now, a formal email example, which is on the screen right now, and a casual email example, which we will look at momentarily. Basically, this is just a draft of an email that you could write to one of us, to a professor, to a coworker, to something like that, in a formal sense, in a formal environment. So this is an example of an email that you could send to us. I wrote it as myself, writing to the SAM editing team. So you can see that in the to section, I didn't CC or BCC anyone because I'm only sending it to one person, and that would be SAM editing help. The subject line is simple and includes the name of the sender, my name, because this is a formal email. The greeting is polite and addresses the recipients of the email, and it's fairly simple. It doesn't need to be more than that. The body uses proper grammar and full sentences and discusses everything that I need to discuss and is relevant to the subject. And the closing is formal and uses the sender signature, namely mine. I wrote my first name and my last name because this is a formal email. So like I'm trying not to be casual here and just say Caitlin. Also worth noting is because I said that there was an attachment in the email and because I intended to put an attachment in the email, I remembered to attach it. Next, let's look at a casual, friendly email example. Structurally, this is very similar to the previous formal email example because emails are just kind of the same across the board. But there are some important differences. In the to section, again, there's only one person receiving this email, so I'm sending it to a friend, Julie. Similar to the previous one, the subject is simple and addresses the topic of the email, but in this case, because it's more casual and I'm talking to a personal friend, I didn't include my name. The body of the email is written fairly similarly. It has proper grammar and full sentences, but the language is a little more casual. My greeting is just, hey, Julie, and I use a lot of exclamation points because I'm excited about what I'm talking about. But it's still proper. The closing, similarly to the greeting, similarly to everything else in this email, is very casual and friendly, but it still has similar components to the formal email where I have a closing in my signature. Another thing worth including is I have only written my first name, again, because I'm talking to a personal friend, so I don't need to be as formal as putting my first and last name.
So we covered a lot of information today about how to write emails and email etiquette, and really appreciate you watching and sticking through to the end. So we always want to close by saying you are more than welcome to ask us questions. We have our email listed here, and these slides will be listed, will be available for you to review outside of the video. But again, ask us any questions. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.